Protesting is an important way to draw attention to social problems. By protesting, social issues can become harder and harder to ignore, but this is not a new way to get a point across. Examples of protesting can be found in many historical books, and even books such as Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. There are a few examples of common people standing up for what they believe in that are shown in this book. The protests mentioned in this book were based off the real events of the French Revolution, so as history tells, these protests did make a difference. Here are a few reasons why the people in the 19th century France felt they needed to protest and fight back for their rights.
Down with the Bourbons and the hog Louis XVIII. This quote shouted by Marius towards his grandfather, who has opposing political views to Marius. Marius soon makes rebel friends, and he forms his own opinion about the monarchy and the issues in France. This moved Marius to protest against people like his grandfather, the general government, and even police forces. Marius and other poor rebels led by a large protest against the rich and the government. Eventually, this event led to the battle breaking out, with many deaths. These actions affected his country and made it very hard to forget that people were suffering in the government. He stood up for what he believed in and what he thought was right. He was willing to die for what he believed in, and this is great nonetheless.
Another example of protesting in Les Mis is represented by Jean Valjean's actions. Protesting does not only mean to verbally express something. Jean Valjean protests against the government by repeatedly escaping them, running, and hiding, doing exactly what they did not want. While he may not have been trying to make a point by doing this, he made it apparent to the police system and the government that he did not care what they wanted. He did what was best for him and other people. If he had not escaped, he would not have been able to say Fauchelevent as Monsieur Madeleine. He would not have been able to talk to the dying Fantine or save her daughter Cosette from the terrible Thénardiers. By doing what Jean Valjean thinks is right, even if the government disagrees, Valjean is standing up and fighting. This is protesting. Any opinion deserves to be heard.
A recent issue that has resurfaced is the idea of better gun control in America. Many credible sources have been protesting, writing, and arguing about recent mass shootings in America. According to CNN, in an article written in November of 2017, the definition of mass shootings may vary, but there have been calculated averages of 7 mass shootings a week. This was from a span of January 1st to November 5th, in which there were 307 mass shootings. Victims of families involved in the shootings protest for better gun control. They do not want to see another devastation like the ones they were involved in. Aaron Feist, an assistant football coach, jumped in front of high schoolers in a recent Florida school shooting. He died to save others from a tragedy like this one. Many people use his example to protest. Things like this should not be happening. The government cannot ignore events like this. It is hard to ignore when people are finally fighting back.
Another current issue that is being protested is the feminist movement. Women all over the nation are talking about equal pay, dress codes, and rape in the workplace. Many famous women are talking out about this problem. In a recent poll, 85% of Americans believe in the feminist movement, yet only 18% consider themselves feminist. Everyone should be given the opportunity to stand up for what they believe in. No one should feel guilty that they are standing up for their rights. Being able to protest allows us to show what we as a nation think needs fixing. If no one addresses a problem, how is anyone going to know it has to be fixed?
In conclusion, protesting is a great way to use your right of freedom of speech. Protesting is a way to show your support for whatever it is that you believe in. If you wish it done, protest. There have been many examples in history of protests that we have seen, such as the protests in Les Miserables. The lower class in France during that time had many setbacks, but they persevered and continued to fight for what they believe in, just as you and many others can and are currently doing today.